Well, we've said we're going to look at four methods, and we've now done three. We've looked at the plurality method, the pairwise comparisons method, the border count method, and here's method number 4, the instant runoff method. This is also known as the plurality with elimination method, and the way it works is actually somewhat similar to the example we saw a while ago, the one that had to do with selecting the host city for the Olympics. However, we're going to assume, as we do in all these methods, that the first thing that's been done is preference ballots have been cast by all voters. So once that's done, the voters could actually leave. They just leave their ballots behind, and now we follow this automatic process. So here's what we do. First of all, we look at the first place votes, just as we do with the plurality method. However, we don't declare a winner unless somebody has a majority. That is to say, we look at the first place votes, and if a candidate has a majority, then we say that candidate is the winner. But if no one has a majority, then what we do is we eliminate the candidate with the fewest first place votes. And you should think we do it in the following way. We have all the ballots in front of us, all the preference ballots. We just cross that candidate off. They did not succeed in the first round. They were the lowest in the first choices, so they just get crossed out on every ballot. And now it's as if we have a new set of ballots with fewer candidates, okay? So we have an ordered list from every voter of the remaining candidates. And now we just look again. We now look at the new first choices. They might be your old first choices, or they might be what now becomes your first choice because your first choice has been ruled out. And you just continue on in that way. So again, we look for if there's a majority, and if there's not a majority, then we cross out whoever is currently the lowest candidate. And eventually we'll come down to just a runoff among two if necessary, and eventually someone will achieve a majority. All right, so let's see how this works in an example. Let me note that the example that I've given us here is exactly the same as the example I used for the border count method. And you might remember that the winning movie under the border count method was Some Like It Hot. All right, so what happens in round one? Well, in round one, we're just looking at first choices. So we just look across the top. Citizen Kane has 17. Some Like It Hot has 12. Lawrence of Arabia has 2, and Shawshank Redemption has 11. Make sure you understand that 11. It's true, there's 8 of one ballot and 3 of another, but if we're just looking at first choices, those all are saying the same thing about Shawshank Redemption. So there's 11 votes for Shawshank Redemption. That is to say, 11 first choice votes. All right, now, did anybody get a majority? Well, what would be a majority here? 17 plus 12 plus 2 plus 11. That is, what is that? 42, I believe. And no one has a majority out of that. So we're not finished. What we need to do is we need to throw away one of the candidates, and the one we throw away is Lawrence of Arabia. Okay, so now Lawrence of Arabia is no longer in contention, and we can actually indicate that on our preference schedule by crossing Lawrence of Arabia out everywhere. Okay, now what does that do to the first choices? Well, for most people, it doesn't make any difference at all. In fact, there were only 2 people that said Lawrence of Arabia was their favorite movie. So these are the only people who are changing. They're forced to change. They can't vote for Lawrence of Arabia anymore. So they say, okay, we prefer Citizen Kane. So what that means is, in comparison with the first round, 2 more are now voting for Citizen Kane. Nothing else changes except for the fact that Lawrence of Arabia is not even there at all, is not a candidate. Well, did anybody get a majority? Answer is no, nobody got a majority, so we have to go on to round 3, and the movie to be crossed out, the candidate to be crossed out is Shawshank Redemption. All right, so here I show what happens if we do that. So Shawshank Redemption is now getting crossed out, and that actually affects 11 voters who previously were voting for Shawshank Redemption. 8 of them can't even have their first or second choices. They have to go now with their third choice, Citizen Kane, so they give an additional 8 to Citizen Kane. And 3 of them transfer now their loyalty or their vote over to Some Like It Hot, which goes up to 15. Now, you could either do it the way I did it, or you can just say, well, let's just start afresh here. Let's just look at these ballots with the names of certain candidates crossed out and count how often the candidate is top choice. For example, Citizen Kane is listed top on 17 plus 2 ballots. Wait a minute, and I didn't say them all. 17 plus 2 plus 8 more. Okay, I should point out where those are. So 17 here, and 8 here, and 2 here. That's where the 27 are coming from. Okay, and then 15 for Some Like It Hot. In any case, what happened? In round 3, suddenly somebody did achieve a majority. It was Citizen Kane. So Citizen Kane is declared the winner. I want you to note that even though this was based on exactly the same preference schedule, that the result did not come out the same as under the board account method. The board account method declared Some Like It Hot to be the winner, whereas this instant runoff declared Citizen Kane